Welcome to test script creation and execution section. I hope you watched the previous lesson on how to set up Cypress and how to install the packages, Node and Cypress packages, and how to set it all up. All right, I'm very excited to present this section because this is very exciting, creating test scripts, and I love test automation. And I'm starting from scratch. I don't have any automation scripts written, and I haven't used Cypress in a very long time. Okay. And I don't have Visual Code installed on this computer. So I'm starting from scratch so you learn. And also, I'm not going to keep this very edited because I want you to see the mistakes I'm doing. So you understand that making mistakes is okay, and that's how you learn. And that's how you figure out. So you can watch what I'm doing and how I'm figuring things out. Okay. And this is how you can transition from manual testing into automation testing, and also any tool or any concept that you pick up. And you don't have to memorize everything, is what I'm saying, right? Even though I've used it in the past, it's been a while since I used Cypress. I don't recollect everything at this point, but I'm going to figure it out along the way. First thing, I don't have Visual Code installed. Okay, first let's install Visual Code. So just go to Google and Visual Studio Code download. Okay, you can go to code.visualstudio.com/download, and you can download the one that's right for you. If you're on Windows, pick this, and if you're on Mac, you can pick this. So click on Mac. That's what I have. You can click on Windows if you have that. See, it's downloading. Open the downloaded zip file that's downloaded to your downloads folder or any place that you have downloaded it to. And double click it, and it's going to unzip it. So after you unzip the VS Code download, it's going to create this application for you. Open the Visual Code application like that. It's going to ask if you can trust it. Okay, and this is the editor, Visual Code editor. The first time when you open, you can close this, release notes. All right. Now, this is your editor. This is nothing to do with Cypress, by the way. It is just an editor. You can use it to write your JavaScript code or any other code that you want to use it for. And I love it for JavaScript and Cypress. Right? Cypress is based on JavaScript. So it's great for JavaScript-based coding or scripting. All right. So now since we already set up our Cypress, so remember we downloaded Cypress and installed it in our tutorial section, and wherever you installed it, right? Go check out that. So I have installed in my Cypress_tutorials folder like this. This is my Cypress directory. Okay, this is my Cypress. Okay, this is where I have installed Cypress on my machine. Okay, you can figure out where you installed on your machine, and then you can go to that and open that directory essentially and start creating your scripts. Okay, so let's try to open now. I have it under tutorials, Cypress tutorial, like so. And I have it under Cypress in this main directory. Okay. Yes, I trust the authors. So here on the left side in the Explorer, you can see your entire directory structure like that, or your folders like that. On Windows, also follow the same instructions. You can download Visual Code and you can unzip it, and then you can open that application wherever you install that. And then you can go to this directory where you have your Cypress All right, now this is where your tests are, end-to-end tests. Remember, we picked end-to-end testing as our main testing type. All right, these are all your scripts. So already they have this written. Remember when we were downloading and setting up our Cypress, there was an option where we could use existing samples to see how to write these tests. So I picked yes at that time. I picked that option to pick example test cases. And these are all the examples that came with the setup. This I have not written. Okay. So you can skip this part. You can just start creating new scripts also from scratch if you don't want to get confused. Okay. But know that these came with the installation and we picked example scripts to be included in our setup from the previous section, if you remember. All right. So before that, before we start creating our scripts from scratch, I just want you to understand a few things here. I want you to understand few methods or few functions. Okay. So, and this is the structure of a Cypress test script. All right. So when you see like slashes like that, that means these are all comments. Okay. You don't have to worry about that. These are all comments. If you see double slashes like that, 2 slashes, those are comments. And this is where your script is starting. I love Visual Code because it has nice highlighting. When you hover over any of these methods, it will give you the description of the function, how to use it, and details about that function and some examples. If you see that, it has given you an example also how to use that function. Right? It's pretty neat that way. If you don't understand how to use a method, you can hover over that method and you can, or that function, and you can see how to use that. Before you start writing your first test scripts, it's important to understand the basic structure of a Cypress test. Cypress uses Mocha. Mocha is a testing framework combined with Chai assertions. Okay, so Mocha is a testing framework. Don't worry about that. Details of Mocha and its internal workings, but Cypress uses Mocha and it uses Chai assertions, okay, to write in a readable format. So let's look at the main components of Cypress test. They are, first is describe. This is how you start your tests, okay? And you can group related tests within the describe. Okay, describe is a block. So you can just close this. You can use this to close and expand, right? This down arrow, when you do that, when you click on it, it collapses the whole entire section for you or entire block for you, coding block. So you can see your test script is inside of this block, the describe block. So the first thing that you have to write is the describe block. And think of this as defining a test suite, which contains multiple test cases in it. And before each is a hook. Okay, it's another method or function. So before each is a hook. That means whatever is included in that block, right? This block, if you close this block, right? This is a block before each block, which is given in the curly braces like that. And inside of this method, so this, we'll look at the syntax in a bit, how to write this. But in this method, when you call it, whatever you want the test to run first, before you start executing that test suite, you can give that in the before each block. Okay, this is the before each block. So in order to start writing your test scripts, you don't need to know everything. If you know a few basic things that I'm going to show you in this section, that's good enough for you to start writing your test scripts, and then you can build your knowledge on top of it. Okay, so all you need is describe. That's your main block. Okay, you start with the describe. And within that block, so if you collapse like this, like I said, this is the block, right? Inside of that block, you have multiple test cases and multiple hooks that you can include. Before each is a hook where you give everything that has to happen before you start running the rest of your test cases, before you begin. That's why it's called before each. Every time you run this, you have to execute this. And we'll look at this method in a bit. What is it block? Okay, this is another block, right? It block. It represents an individual test case. Okay, it's a complete test case. Remember how you had instructions and steps for each test case? Each test case checks for a specific thing, you remember, with steps and everything with a purpose. So that's included in it. Okay, this is nothing but a test case. Okay, it represents a test case. Okay, so the way test case has the prerequisites and test steps and expected results and the actual results, that's all included in it. All right. We'll not go into details of this test script because this is an example test script that came with the installation of Cypress. So I just want you to look at the main sections of writing test scripts. All right. So those were the main sections or the main structure. And within each of these test cases, you can use sci commands. This is how you start writing commands. Sci.visit visits a website address. This is the URL. Sci.get is a way to find an element on the web page. And once you find that element, the next dot, this action, what should you do with that element is given in the next part. And it's separated by dot. Okay. So essentially, you first find the element and then take an action on it. All right. So this is how you structure. And we're going to look at that in a bit, how to write this, but just understand the high level structure. All right. So know that any Cypress script like this has to start with a describe block. If you have specific steps that need to be run, then you include that in the before each section like this. And then the actual test cases should be written in the it block. And within each test case, you use sci commands to interact with the web page. And you use get to get the element on the web page. And dot is a action. After this is an action that you want to take on that element. And there are multiple actions that you can take. And you can verify them. Okay. So this is like, it should have a length of 2 is what it's saying. So it's doing a verification here. But if you want to send information to that element, you can do that also. Okay. And we're going to look at that in a bit. So that's about it for now. Okay. So let's start creating our first test scripts. Excited? Let's get started.